when you invest with us, or for an investor looking for something, they should recognize what they want in terms of returns, what kind of value they want in terms of their investment dollars. And for a lot of people, where is it important for where the property is? Is it okay if it's over there or if it's here and something that you recognize?
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Action Takers Unscripted. Today we have the guest, Dr. Sharma. How you doing today, Doctor?
Hi, Arsenio. I'm doing great. Good to talk to you
Um,
on the screen again.
yeah. So this isn't our first time, talking together and getting on a podcast. We was on Brian Briscoe's
Yep.
podcast back in August, I believe,
Uh-huh.
and you shared some great information on Brian podcast, and I'm sure you're going to do the same here. So thank you for coming on the show, and looking forward to get this conversation going.
I'm looking forward, and it's an honor to be here. Thanks, Arsenio.
Absolutely. So let's get started with introduction. Just tell the audience who you are, where you come from, and what you do in the real estate sector, and we can go from there.
Yeah, sure, sure. So my name, like you said, I am Dr. Sanjay Sharma. I am a practicing physician. I'm a hematologist oncologist. I'm in terms of real estate, I'm a co-founder of Titan 3 Capital. You can see my logo behind me. Myself and my two partners, we have a thesis in terms of real estate where we look for communities worth living, bringing up the area, and legacies worth leaving. Specifically, we like the life science corridor. So what our emphasis has been on is, I like to say, follow NIH, National Institute of Health dollars. Where's the research? Where's the major research going on in the United States? And that's where we focus our interests on in terms of real estate. We're all doctors, so we so understand medicine, we so understand research. So, for example, what we're focusing on right now is University City in Philadelphia. It's the city where UPenn is, so Ivy League, Drexel University, and it's the global headquarters of what's called cell therapy. And cell therapy, for the listeners who actually even a lot of doctors don't know what cell therapy is, it's oncology treatment. So this is cancer treatment. Traditionally, we used to have stem cell transplants, bone marrow transplants for a lot of our hematologic malignancies, but now we have techniques and research that supports manipulating the immune system by altering the genes in it and infusing it in patients. And in some situations, it's replacing stem cell transplant. And then it has corollaries into rheumatologic diseases and even some neurologic diseases. So it's a gigantic industry. And one of the headquarters is UPenn. The first FDA approved product was in 2017. So we recognize that entire corridor as an area of massive research and massive drug development and massive need for doctors and scientists and researchers. And so what we're doing is we recognize that area, we're familiar with it because we've lived there, we've worked there, and that's where we're developing. So
Mm.
we're building luxury apartment housing for the doctors, the physicians, the scientists there. We're looking at manufacturing space. We're looking at existing multifamily units,
Mhm.
and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So that's where we invest in. That's where we bring our investors in. That's what we sponsor and bring great returns. So that's what Titan 3 Capital is.
Yeah. So is this the first massive? I think this is pretty big project, correct? So it's not
Yes.
like your normal 10, 15 unit. This is
Mhm.
like a 300 plus unit type of
Yeah.
asset.
So the last raise we did, that's for a 260,000 square foot building.
Mhm.
These what we're coming up with a discretionary fund, which is going to include hundreds and hundreds of units in terms of development, and
Mhm.
also existing multifamily in the area.
Mhm.
So yes, so this last project that we raised for, that was a $130 million project.
That's huge.
It's
That's
big.
awesome.
There's
But
lots of numbers in there.
yeah, so I'm assuming, no, not assuming. You stated, are you and your partners, everyone's a doctor?
Yeah, so there's three of us. Two of us are physicians. Our
Mhm.
third partner is an accountant,
Okay.
but his wife is a physician. So we,
Yeah.
we all met through. We all have similar interests. We all come from a healthcare background.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with you all being in the physician industry or or knowing that you're doctors? Like, I would assume this had to have a lot of analytical uh,
Yeah,
processes before you jumped into it. So this is what I'm thinking of. Like, you guys are all like focused on this one thing. You all set a certain goal that you want to meet within Philadelphia market, and not only that, like it's it's tight. Like, this isn't just any type of deal. You did your research, you've done the due diligence, and you see the potential that this is going to bring for future
right.
doctors, et cetera, and researchers, et cetera. So when it came into that, like, I guess who found this market? You guys say you lived there before. Just who found that market, and then what made the team like, this is it? We
Right.
know this is it. We know this is going to knock it out of the park within the next couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you brought up several points. I mean, you brought about, or you alluded to the question of how do we analyze it? Two, how do we pick the spark? It three, you sort of asked the question kind of how we got together and how we started. So I'll start out with that latter, how we got together, how we started. We're all from healthcare background. Myself and my partner, who are physicians, we're both deep into our practice, very successful in what we've done. Moved up in both leadership, administration, and practice. The accountant is also very successful, comes from a background. He's actually a veteran. He's a Marine veteran.
Right,
And he comes, that's right. And he comes from a background from, corporate accounting. I think he was a vice president at American Express at one time. So we've all had these developed careers. We all have different expertise. So for example, I mean, the accountant, obviously it makes sense. I never even look at numbers anymore. I mean, he kind
right,
of, but that's not fair. I do look at numbers, but
yeah,
he manages all of that,
right.
from a leadership standpoint. My other partner has been integral in developing healthcare programs and actually building hospitals. So we all have our different interests, but we all are connected through the healthcare.
Mm.
So when you talk about the analysis of it, there's kind of the broad analysis, and then there's kind of the deeper analysis. So the broader analysis is, what are we looking for? When we're talking about communities worth living in, to leave legacies worth leaving, what are the communities that I want to live in, or what are the communities that I have lived in? And
Mm.
so for all doctors, we've all lived on medical campuses. We've all spent numerous years, if not decades, on those particular campuses. So it's very tangible to us.
Mm.
As opposed, and we also have other deals, other developments, kind of more standard value add apartment buildings. But as opposed to, if I say I have this building in X city, city X, and we're going to do this, and these are what the numbers are, and these are the value adds, that's not necessarily tangible to my investors.
Mm.
They may not know where I live. I mean, in fact, I don't. I mean, yeah, I know what country you live in, but I don't know the ecosystem. Or even my partner, who's a vet, I said, oh yeah, he's in Japan. He's like, oh, I've been stationed in Japan. So you guys have a familiarity with that,
Right.
but all my physician investors do recognize the medical campus. So in a broad spectrum, the location makes sense.
Mm.
Two, we're highlighting the top universities in the country. These are Ivy League universities. Yeah, that everyone knows that. Everyone knows UPenn. Everyone recognizes Ivy League. So we're hitting on that. Three, we are looking into infill urban markets as opposed to what's traditionally been the Southeast. If
Right.
you talk about the Sun Belt, which traditionally has been the most popular place to invest for sponsors to go in, there's a lot of reasons with a change in the market, with a change in the interest rates, with the building of apartment units, that the Southeast isn't as lucrative anymore. So
Mm.
we stay away from that. We look at urban infill, where it's not that there's land, it's that this is what you got.
Mm.
So what are you going to do with this space? So for example, we buy existing plots of lands with properties on it, and we tear down and build up.
Yeah.
Or we look for recent vintage existing multifamily where we can still do value add. Possibly maybe those buildings are dealing with interest rate issues and floating rates and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So A, we recognize places where we've lived in. B, our investors can also understand those areas because they lived in there.
Mhm.
C, they recognize Ivy League. D, we're going for urban infill. And that brings us to these locations, and like I said, following NIH money and National Institute of Health money. And that brings us to UPenn, it brings us to Harvard. These are the areas which are, the top three, top four life science areas in the United States. And then we dig down deeper. Then we look at, okay, what's the land? What's the entitlement? What are the rent growths? These are urban areas. So the rules and the laws are a little bit different in urban areas as opposed to kind of the outskirts of the Sun Belt. There's different tenant laws, different landlord laws, and that's when we dig deeper, deeper, deeper. And yes, we are doctors, so we are super analytical, and so we got to make sure that what we're getting into is safe, for our colleagues and our friends and our investors
Yeah.
and everyone.
And that's what I was going to get into next. What are you doing to mitigate risk? Because these are new development projects.
Mhm.
Anything could happen, right? Prices go up and lumber again, or prices just skyrocket, or just anything unknown could happen. Like we always have risk when we go into investments. But what are some of the things that you guys do as far as to mitigate the risk and ensure that
Sure.
your investors are protected?
Yeah, yeah. So when you talk about risk and you're identifying that there's different risks in every asset class, right? And to even if we get away from real estate, there's a certain risk to real estate, there's certain risk to REITs, there's
Mm-hmm.
certain risk to stocks.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain risk for everything. Certain risk for I don't know, the treasury bill versus a penny stock, whatever it may be. So within the real estate world, there are inherent risks in developing. There's an inherent risk in building value add. A lot of those risks I've talked about. What is the city? What is the government? What are they doing in terms of laws for landlords and for tenants? When we do developments, we have to critically look at those. So, for example, this our latest deal, 40th and Market, we have this deal has formulated over the last couple of years. It was an area that was identified, negotiated on, purchased at extremely under market. Secondly, had existing tenants on it because it's a building. So there's contracts made that the tenants are going to break their lease. And then most importantly, is we had to go through the process of getting entitlement from the city of Philadelphia in order to figure out, okay, what size building can we get? Um, how many square feet can we build? And what are the limitations, if any, in terms of rents that we can charge? So, for example, we got our entitlements before there was a requirement for affordable housing. Now in Philadelphia, there I think is 20% of the units that you build have to be affordable housing. We have no restrictions at all,
Oh, wow.
which increases your NOI,
Mm.
increases the value of the building. So by default, by our entitlements, by the purchase price of this building, we have mitigated almost all risk. And then you look at, well, where's the money coming from? What are the sponsors bringing in? What are the bigger investors, whether it's family office, whether it's equity debt, how strong are those different parties? And so we only bring the strongest of the strong. So it's mitigated. So in particular in that deal, for phase one of that, are the risk is markedly mitigated. So it's a very, very safe investment in terms of development. Now, you had talked about a thing to delineate between development and existing multifamily. When you have existing multifamily, you have a particular income that's coming in. In the development field, I don't. I've got dirt, right? And then
Right.
I'm going to build. And then
Mm.
at some point, um, the income is going to come when you get rent. All along the way, there's tax abatement because your expenses are super, super high. Everything from renting the bulldozers to the shovels to the architect drawings,
Right.
those are all expenses. So you're incurring expenses, which helps you in terms of tax abatement, but you don't get the income until you actually build the building. If you have an existing multifamily, which is also part of a portfolio, you're buying an existing business that has an existing income. So, there's at least $1 or $2 maybe coming in, whatever the value is, it doesn't matter. Now you'll have to be savvy enough as a sponsor to recognize how you can increase the value, how you can extract cash flow, and how you can build how much the building is worth over
Makes
time.
sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Um, So it's a different field, development versus getting existing multifamily, and it's different level of experience and different levels of partnership. So we partnered with expertise in developers, expert developers who've done over $1 billion worth of this, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of coming from big time industry. So we only partner with the best. We only go for the best locations, the best properties to give our investors the best
That's
returns
return.
possible.
Beautiful. I think what you do and what you guys have found is just, I think that's a phenomenal find, a phenomenal market. Um, and again, safe. It sounds like a safe and secured bet for
Mhm.
accredited investors to invest in. So this type of deal is just to me. I the from what I've looked at and what I've seen, what you provided is just incredible. So anybody that
Thank
jumps
you.
in on this as soon as possible is it's going to be getting the bang for their buck, as a lot of people have stated.
I
Um,
appreciate that. And so let me just keep going over it. So another thing, and this is true for anyone who's investing, is you have to figure out what it is that you're looking for. We're in a we're a particular niche, right? We're doctors, developers in life science and urban markets.
right.
So if you invest in this and you recognize our thesis, you know what you're getting.
Mm,
Um, and I think that plays a big role. Sometimes I've seen investors go after a particular return, which isn't bad. You can say, okay, I want a particular IRR, or I want my money to double or to triple or whatever it may be. We have very, very healthy and lucrative returns. But when you invest with us, you're investing in a thesis and you're investing in a particular area. And that could be important for different people. And it's definitely important for my investors and myself.
mm,
We've all done duplexes, triplexes, quads, 10 units, 15 units. I have buildings in LA and Atlanta and now in here. So like it took me a while to get to this. This is a development. I mean, even you and I, since we've talked over a year, we've developed into different people. So when you when you invest with us or for an investor looking for something, they should recognize what they want in terms of returns, what kind of value they want in terms of their investment dollars. And for a lot of people, where is it important for where the property is? Is it okay if it's over there or if it's here and something that you recognize?
absolutely. You hit the nail right on the right ahead with that one. I think knowing what you want, knowing exactly what you stated as far as the value, what type of value you want to bring back, what do you see, and as you stated, investing with you is you're investing in a thing. You're investing in
Mhm.
you guys what you guys see and what the potential that this project could bring. I'm gonna go back because
Yeah,
I know we jumped right into the deal because I think one that's important to get that out there for the honest members too. But two, I want to see how'd you get started in
yeah,
real
sure.
estate. Now, maybe some people don't know if they haven't been on Brian Briscoe's Diary of a Partner Investor. If they haven't listened to that show, this is their first time listening to you. So, how did you get from your one? You're a doctor, so you got to have a busy schedule, and then still doing real estate on the side, or it's just one great on you for doing that, and just I commend that, and I just would like to get the audience members to
Yeah,
see how you got started, and then get them some strategies on possibly if they want to get started in the real estate game too. So,
yeah, of course.
how'd you get started and get into a doctor, and then saw real estate, and then we'll
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. I'll just briefly go over being a doctor. So yeah, we're busy people. It's something I've always wanted to do. I'm an oncologist, so I have a passion for intense diagnosis and research. So oncology has been a tremendous area of growth. How I practice, I've been practicing for 19 years now. How I practiced 19 years ago is completely different than how I practice now. Just the
Right.
amount of research and the amount of help that we can do for patients is just as you would expect, is amazing. Just think of what's happened in the last 19 years. outside of medicine. Back in my days when I was in college, we didn't have emails, we didn't have iPhones. And just think of like the massive growth of technology, but
Mm,
likewise, we're seeing that in medicine. And I just feel so blessed to be a part of that industry and helping literally the thousands and thousands of patients that I've seen over the years. It's this is something I'm very passionate about and something I truly care for and I love.
mm,
And yes, we're very busy. I also have an entrepreneurial streak to me. I recognize that owning assets is so incredibly important. Yeah, physicians, we do well. We do make good money, but that's just cash going into your bank account as opposed to growing assets and growing wealth.
mm.
Um, that's where real estate comes. And so for years, I've had an interest in real estate. I think on Brian's podcast, I talked about. I never really understood it because I was never really taught real estate.
Right.
I grew up in the Midwest, and things were kind of relatively slow. Properties, it's still the same now. You can buy a property, kind of stays the same. They're not very expensive, and they do okay. And but I was surrounded by economy changes, if you will. When I was in med school, it was like the dot-com era in terms of stocks.
Right.
I missed that because I was busy studying. But what I'd also see around me is real estate growth.
Mm.
And I've lived in big cities. During the fellowship, I was in New York City and I was married at the time, or I'm still married, same wife. Um, and then what we noticed around us is just how expensive things were in New York City. Little box like Japan. Japan's crazy expensive depending on what city you're in Japan.
Right.
But like a small little apartment building is was the numbers at the time were just they were blowing my mind how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I remember I had some family members from New York. They're like, you need to buy something. Why are you renting? Why are you renting your apartment? Go buy the apartment, go buy the building. And I was like, that's nuts. That's absolutely crazy. Like who the
Yeah.
heck buys buildings, right? Anyone who thinks about real estate, or even what I'm talking about, $133 million deal, there's people out there, what the heck? They're probably like, let's just turn this off. Like that's just like so stupid. Like the waste of my time. Let me go do something else. But
Mm.
it's true. Normal people buy this. Like
Yes.
you just have to put the reps in, right? Like how long did it take you to get into 10? Well, you were probably super athletic your whole life. But anyway, in order to get 10 pull-ups, you started out, day one just trying to lift a little bit. But so I started out just like everyone else. I was like, oh, this is crazy, whatever. I'm not gonna do this. And then I started getting introduced to um syndications. And so um over 10 years ago, I did like a small little bit of money
Mm.
into a syndication. And, it's been over 10 years and I'm getting 35% returns every year, like clockwork, and,
Right.
paying little tax on it because there's so much tax mitigation in real estate. And that was really great. And
Mm.
then I did another syndication and I had an incredible return. And then my wife and I said, we can do this on our own. So we bought a duplex and built on it and sold it as a triplex, actually to another Marine. And then from that money, we bought a triplex and a quad. And then we built that up, increased the value almost 50% on both of those buildings and exited. But there was more out there, like what I was talking about when you invest in Titan 3 Capital, you're investing in what we feel strongly about. I love those buildings. I love what I brought to the community. I love the product what I built, and I recognized that it was actually helping the street that I was in. It was
Mm.
helping the people who were renting there. It was allowing them to, continue their life in a particular lifestyle that they appreciated. But I wanted to get bigger, and then I decided that I would start syndicating. So I then was involved with the syndication where we bought 18 units in LA. And then we went to Atlanta, and then we did a few hundred in Atlanta. And then we formed Titan 3 Capital, and now we're doing development and also existing multifamily. So I started out with a duplex, right? Like most people. Well, I didn't do the single family residence, but I started out with a duplex. And I will say, granted, I did it in LA, which is super crazy expensive, but it's that's kind of how I marched up.
Mm.
Duplex to triplex to quad to 18 to 250 to hundreds and hundreds of units.
Right. Incredible. Like
Yeah.
still like I like what you stated there too in regards to when when you like getting started is like that's the biggest thing. Taking that first step,
Mhm.
looking into what it is that you like, what you love, what you're passionate about,
Mhm.
and honing in on that skill. I think I'm reading I just started the book called The One Thing, right?
Mhm.
And it talks about how if you human beings, we try to do this multitasking and everything, no
Mhm.
matter how much we try to multitask, focusing on that one thing, you're still doing all these other things. If you focus on that one thing, you're going to more than likely be more successful than doing all these other
Correct.
multitasking stuff,
Mhm.
because the human mind can only focus on that one thing. Human beings can only do one thing at one time. But even though we think multitasking, we can finish a lot of things here just doing that one thing, focusing on it, get it done, and move on to the next task. You're gonna execute that plan or execute that goal a little bit more faster than you do the multitasking thing. But in multifamily, you have to. You're not going to know everything in one day. You're not going to know everything in one month. Maybe you can, but you you'll never know everything. You just have to focus on the one thing that you want to get into. Is it want to do the triplex, the small residential thing? Go ahead. If you want to get into commercial, what is it that takes to get into the commercial side of things, and what it is that you can do to what skills did you have? What kind of skills do you want to do? Do you want to be an underwriter? Do you want to be a asset manager? What it is? What do you want to do inside this market, and what can you provide to the team? Do you want to be a fund manager? Hey, that's what I'm doing. I found that out here lately, not lately, but last year, that the certain skills sets that you hone in on and you focus on, you can be GP, you can be a LP, or you can be
Mhm.
a fund manager managing a fund to fund other projects. As in your project, I'm looking into as well with another set of guys as fund managers. So it's
Mhm.
again, what how much you want to get into this space, and if you aren't going to start off as a getting 10 pull-ups all the time or getting 20.
Mhm.
Some people are blessed and graced
Mhm.
with that, but it takes time. It takes time. And then where do you find the time to do that? And where do you find the time to practice what you want to get into? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's been an incredible journey for me and yourself, but we all start somewhere. We all
that's
start
right.
somewhere.
And you should and you need to give yourself credit also along the way. When you're describing uh, doing the one thing, it takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of faith in yourself. Everything you've everyone has a tremendous amount of skills. You're talking about is we like to be multifaceted people. We are. We have lots of interest,
Right.
right? You may like doing pull-ups, but you may also like to draw. You may like to read. You may like to look at a particular YouTube video, whatever it is. Those are all skill sets. And when you're concentrating on one thing as you're describing it, and what's talked about in that book, is you're developing a strength. It's actually an inner strength. It's like it's a degree of confidence that you have when you're going into that one thing to kind of hold back all distractions and becoming an expert on it. It doesn't mean you're the world's expert on it. It doesn't mean you're going
Right.
to win a Nobel Prize in what you're doing, but that takes a lot of self-discipline. You, as a active military person, if anyone between us recognizes self-discipline and learning habits um and kind of working for a strong ethos, it's you. And so that's a skill set that you develop by doing the one thing. And that's kind of what I had concentrated on from moving from one asset class to another asset class to another asset class. And all along the way, I didn't know where I was going to go next. I have a concept, right? I have an idea, I have a vision,
Right.
but you move along that pattern. You keep moving in that direction. And it's a patient thing. This doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I'm going to compare it to being a doctor. A lot of people say being a doctor, wow, that's like a long journey. Okay, fine. There's 4 years of college, 4 years of med school, 3 years of residency, 3 years of fellowship, and blah, 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 which, adds up over time. But in reality, it's kind of an easy thing to do. If you talk to doctors, and I'm curious to hear what you say in your career in the military, but to be a doctor, your job is to get into med school, and you're an apprentice
Mm.
and you learn from someone just above you. And then you get to that level, which is the next year. and then you learn from someone above you, and then you get to that level, and you're taking tests along the way, and then one day you're an attending, and then one day you've been practicing for 19 years.
Mm,
So that's almost easier because it's scripted.
mm,
Like I know what it is to become a doctor because I've done it. I know how to counsel people to become a doctor because you just have to get through that entry door. It's not easy, but that's what you have to get through.
mm,
Entrepreneurship, running a real estate business is a little bit different because it's not scripted. I mean, you yourself have coaches and you hope that those coaches can guide you in one way or another, but it's still not scripted. So when you're going from one thing to one thing to one thing, you're creating the path. And it doesn't happen over, I'm going to call it a short time period, go from high school graduation to becoming an attending in medicine. It takes some time. Like a lot of these numbers I'm using, these are big numbers. $130 million. It's a big number. Doesn't mean I have $130 million. You know, I'm just the same as everyone else, right?
yeah,
Um, but that's how things work. So
yeah, the
I'm
same
curious
thing.
about your thoughts.
Yeah, so with the being in the Marine Corps, it's pretty much the same concept that you just stated. You come in starting off not knowing anything about Marine Corps or military in
Mhm.
general. You start at MEPS and then you go on from cycle to cycle. So you start in the Marine Corps, private first class, whatever the case may be. Some start at level or rank 3, which is Lance Corporal, but you start as a beginner. You don't know anything yet. Like, and that's, of course, that's even if you had folks like your family members and everything that was in the military, in the Marine Corps before, they could tell you all these stories. You still don't know. You can't see the future. You can't see
Mhm.
what's going to happen with you in the future on what you want to do. And you have to do these 4 years as active duty member reservist. They do 6 and 2, but these 4 years as an active duty member,
Mhm.
and it's it's a it's a beginning. It's the beginning phase, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do in the military. Do you want to continue it within another 4 years, or do you want to get out and focus on the civilian sector with the skill sets that you've learned from the
Mhm.
Marine Corps and then transfer into a civilian? A lot of people get out within those first 4 years. I was one of those people that was going to get out within the first 4 years.
Oh
But
yeah.
I had mentors, I had coaches, I had counselors, whatever the case may be, talk to me. And
Mhm.
there was another 4 years on that. And I was
Uh,
like, I'm ready to get out. I'm ready
uh,
to go on and move forward. And there was another 4 years. And then from then, after the first like 10 years being in the Marine Corps, you look back and I'm realizing now, like, wow, I'm now at E7 in the Marine Corps, going to be, I'm not gonna say it yet, but
uh,
looking to level up even more in my skills as a Marine Corps enlisted member, as a senior enlisted advisor to other folks, leading them on the right path,
uh,
and all this. It's this. So I say it's similar to kind of what you do in real estate as
yeah.
well. When you climbing up, you starting off like you don't know anything. You just a baby.
Mhm.
You just you getting your feet wet and you're trying to see if this is the right fit for you. You start
Mhm.
with single family, you start with a duplex, you start with triplex. Do you want to start big? Most people don't want to start big because those numbers look scary and you just don't know yet. But over time, again, these things take time. Over time, you start to develop these skills, you start to develop this knowledge, you
Mhm.
start to develop the experience, and once you get into it, it's just you don't want to stop. You want to continue to grow as
Mhm.
you have done it in your experience there, Dr. Sharma. You've grown, you've experienced, got you got confidence now, like to do these $130 million deals, do these big numbers, and it's just I, like you said, I'm just a normal guy. I'm just a
Yeah.
normal person here. Anyone can do this. It's just, do you want to take the time to actually learn this stuff and not just jump into it
Mhm.
without knowing what you're getting into, but jump into it knowing that maybe you can't see the future. You don't have a crystal ball on what's going to happen, but believing in yourself, as you stated, believing in yourself, believing that you can do this, that you have the team available with you to do this. You're not doing this on your own with the multifamily project. Now, if you do it on your own with the big multifamily project, it's going to be a very slow and painful process for you. But
Uh-huh.
having a team with you and
For
believing in
sure.
yourself, like you said, believing in each
Hmm.
other and believing in each other's skills, that's going to help you grow exponentially. So that's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
that's my take on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you're talking about teamwork again. I'm going to give the credit to you. I mean, you're a Marine. You know teamwork. You're not out there on your own. They're not just dropping you off somewhere and say, "Hey, you got a whole battalion behind you." I mean, you
Oh
got.
yeah.
I'm screwing up the vocabulary, but you got everyone around you. Likewise, in real estate, it's the same. It's just not me. I mentioned my
Mhm.
partners. There's a lot of people involved in this.
With your project, is there anything you're looking for now as far as other investors or things on the horizon for you and your team with the project that you're on now?
Oh yeah, for sure. So we're always looking for partners. We're always looking to see how can we help someone else's portfolio. How can I help the Hart family? What can we do? What can we provide for you guys to uh, join together and help you guys and investors and allow us to continue to do what we're doing continuously. Yeah.
I like. I think there was a webinar that I was listening to with the project that you're on now,
Yeah.
and one of your partners stated, I think he's the lead, one of the co-sponsors for the not co-sponsors, but one of the GPs for your team, one of the three. I forgot his name. I think he's a heart surgeon.
Yeah. Yeah. You got
But
it.
yeah, he was stating, I think towards the end, you guys are looking to build wealth and build some a generational wealth and build something for your families to inherit when you
Mhm.
pass.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I am
Mhm.
passionate about, and I really enjoy when investors state that purpose and it's just say I'm a family guy. I'm a family guy. I'm a team guy and all that stuff, right? Like I look for I look for the future for my family to make sure we take care of the legacy or
Yeah.
build a legacy that was
Yeah.
never built from me, like from when I grew up. That legacy wasn't built, but doing that now to ensure that our kids, our grandkids, their kids and grandkids
Yep.
can have something, having a piece of this earth while they're here, building their own heaven while on earth
Yeah,
is
for
one
sure.
of the things that I want to do for my family, and that's why I really enjoy what you and your team are doing there.
Yeah. It's part of our mission. It's a
Mm.
legacy's worth leaving.
Yeah.
Um, and you're correct. And so I mentioned earlier, real estate is not it's not a fast game. It really is a generational game.
Mm.
And when you talk to people, and I love one of my favorite things. My grandfather taught me while I was growing up to read books about great people. Learn what great people do. Um, and I I say you should just learn what people do, whether you consider that person great or not, whether it's a biography or not. But talk to people about their origin. Talk to even like a friend or a colleague and ask them what their origin story is. And then oftentimes what um, I find that legacies are, well, obviously, I mean, it sounds stupid, but yeah, obviously legacies were created by the generation before you or the generation before that. I'm an Indian immigrant, right? My parents came over from the country, from India to settle here, and they worked very hard in order to get to where to give their kids and myself the opportunities to grow. Likewise, my role is to give my kids and my kids' kids that opportunity. And nothing, or I should say, very little compares to real estate as an asset. You're literally, like you said, giving a piece of the land to your future generations.
Mm.
And some people feel that, well, I got a friend who strongly feels that AI is going to completely change the workforce. A certain percentage of all jobs will be gone and won't be needed.
Okay.
And then the tangible things are what's going to carry the wealth.
Mm.
Like if we're going into whatever dystopian society, well, if you own land, if you own buildings, you can survive. Well, let's just say it. I mean, just just the way he looks at things is, let's just say your job is taken away because of AI, or what your kids are going to study is taken away because of AI, or whatever the dystopian society. Well, if they still have land, if they still have an inflation-proof vehicle, they're going to continue to survive. And
Mm,
those are the legacies we're leaving.
absolutely. I think we're gonna we're getting short on time, but
Okay,
I think that's a good perfect way to end it right there. Just as far as like the legacy that we want to build for our kids, especially with that, we could go into another. It made me think about some more things, as you stated, that with AI taking over for some of the
mm,
jobs, and but real estate is definitely an asset in which, like you said, little compares to what real estate can do for you and
mm,
your family, and as far as your growth, and it's continually growing as we're
mm,
speaking in the near
mm.
future as well. So it's going to be harder to obtain those assets the longer you wait. So,
Correct.
as Brian Briscoe says, I've quoted him many times:
Mm.
buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate.
Yes,
But
yes,
he's
agreed.
quoted someone else, but I'm quoting him, so I'll just say
Someone
this.
said it sometime, whoever it
Someone,
was.
yeah, yeah, that's it. All right, Dr. Sanjay. How can people connect with you, you and your company? And just if you could just share that, and if you have any final thoughts on what we've covered today, can you share that, please?
Sure, sure. So I would love if you reach out to me. The two best ways is come onto our website, titan3capital.com. So Titan 3 capital capital.com, and the LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn at Sanjay Sharma MD. And I would love to meet you. I promise I'll respond to you. Just DM me on LinkedIn and we'll talk, we'll meet. I'm always available.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he's honest to that. He's always answered me, even when I first reached out to him over almost a year ago.
Mhm.
We still been keeping in contact, and
We
he's a
have been.
great
Yeah.
individual. Any final thoughts that you have for the audience members tonight?
No, I'm actually excited to see what you're doing, Arsenio. I told you the first time we met, I said stay in touch, and we have. And I got your back. I'm here for you all the time.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate your words. I appreciate everything you've provided so far, and I'm looking forward to keeping this relationship going.
My pleasure. It's been an honor.